Good morning. It is Wednesday morning, the 8th of April, and having survived camera angle screw-ups, this is Linda Pearl, and I'd like to welcome you to the live feed over on onequiltingcircle.com. I wish I could tell you how many days we have had this new reality. I haven't. I can't do that at this point. I have some good days and I have some bad days. I went grocery shopping on Friday morning, which meant that I was in the grocery store at 7 o'clock in the morning. My local store was very well stocked, very well organized. I don't do 7 a.m. grocery shopping, and I haven't since my kids were little, so that kind of threw me for a loop. And then I kind of sat back and thought about it, and I realized that I need to be a little more patient with me, and I need to be a little bit more patient to the people around me. For many of us, this is the biggest thing that we're dealing with right now. And it's pretty universal, and I think it's kind of a collective experience that's going to change a lot of us going forward. But for many of us, it's not the biggest thing going on. This is sort of running in the background. Babies are being born. Kids are getting sick. Parents are dying. Jobs that were there disappear. So it's kind of something that I think that we could all stand to be a little bit extra on the kind. And one of the things that I've done this week is I've purposely reached out, and I actually have a funny story about that. Purposely been reaching out and checking in with girlfriends and how you doing and how goes it. And some of them have young ones at home. Some of them are older. Some of them are lonely. Some of them are really worried. And so just taking a moment to say, how you doing? And listening to the answer, I think is probably the biggest thing that any of us can do. Not in my funny story. I was dropping, hey Catherine, I was dropping off a shipment of masks that were going out to friends and family. I took them to the post office because they can get them to them faster than I can drive them. And my phone rang. And it was Pam Weeks' phone. And so I pulled off and I picked up and I was like, Pam? And she's like, Linda? I'm like, did you mean to call me? She says, no, I left the phone in the car when I went into the hardware store with the dog. I'm like, well, then Simon wanted to talk to me. And that kind of started off a conversation because Pam Weeks is one of those people that I can always drop in and out of conversations with whenever I want. She's a really lovely lady. We both came to grandmotherhood about the same time in our lives. And if you've seen either of us at a show in the last several years, be careful because we're going to whip out the phones for the dueling grandmother pictures. Sometimes I win, sometimes she wins. We have a lot of fun with it. Lovely lady. Pam's also an extremely accomplished author. And one of the things that happened to her with this whole shutdown and whatever is she has, believe it or not, this year she has 4 different books coming out that she has authored. You may know Pam's name if you've been with the New England Quilt Museum. She's the curator down there. But Pam has got 4 books coming out this year that she's either working with or publishing on her own. I'm particularly happy because I've been hearing about several of these books for a while. And one of the books came in just before Christmas and are sitting in her garage. This is one on the Civil War story. I did pull that one up. Hold on a minute on my email. Most of my email is shut down. But there's just some of this I can't. Okay. We'll give you just a little bit about it. This is the official blurb book is called Civil War Quilts, and it's a must-read for Civil War enthusiasts and quilters seeking accurate information on reproducing Civil War quilts. Story of 14 extraordinary Civil War quilts, and the women who make them bring you face to face with the drama of war and its effects on thousands of lives. Some of the quilts tell love stories, others relate to the determination of women seeking an active role in the war effort, but all represent efforts supporting the fighting men. That resonates differently with me today than it did a while ago. Pam is reachable these days via her email or her website, and I have permission to share that with you. It is pamweeksquilts.com, and I'll throw that in the show notes at the end of the event. But had a lot of laughs at Simon's expense, a good opportunity to catch up with a good friend, and I look forward to talking with her a little bit more later this year. So, since we last spoke, the calendar has taken another turn. And of course, my phone, my show notes are in the computer, and the computer just went to sleep. It's going to be one of those live feeds. The main quilts, the main shop hop, not main quilts, the main shop hop has been postponed indefinitely, and their website indicates that they will get back to us with more information later. And I was not aware of that at the last time you and I spoke. The New England Quilt Museum has come out, and they are further closed until at least the beginning of May. Stay tuned. We may have more information about that later. The big news that hit yesterday is that the Vermont Quilt Festival has been canceled for the year. A show of that size and that magnitude gets a running start right about now, because we're about 90 days out, and there was just too much uncertainty. As much as I adore the show, and it's always the highlight of my year, I wasn't real sure how I felt about going up and being with that large a crowd this soon after this. I mean, I will be ecstatic when I can hug my grandkids, when I can hug my sons, when I don't have to have a panic about somebody going to give me a hug or whatever else. But that's very different than going out in a quilt show environment where there are people and, it's a crowd and it's a rush and all the other stuff. It's a very hard thing to do and to pull the plug. It's devastating for the vendor community because, once again, they have lost another show that has done it. I have to say I've been extraordinarily impressed with the tone of the Vermont Festival communications. There's been several of them. Everything from vendors having their booth fees returned to here's how you can get your quilt show entrance fees refunded to whatever we need to be able to do. In their communication, they also stated that they're taking a huge financial hit, and they're concerned about, being able to bring Vermont back to the level that it's at. So we're very concerned about that. We're very much watching it. I can't remember the last time it was the end of June and I didn't go to Vermont. So this is going to be very different, but I think it's the only responsible thing to do. And if you've been on their feeds, you will realize that the Champlain Valley Expo Center, which is where the festival is held, has been turned into a temporary hospital by the city of Burlington. So that's another backstory to this. So we will watch, we will see. They have published their dates for 2021, so that's a very positive sign. June 23rd to the 26th, I believe. Already got it on my calendar. It'll be going on other people. It'll be going out in the published edition of Cornerstone, so that will be what we're doing on that. Okay, so that's Vermont. One of the other things, and this is kind of on the funny side, is that I am one of the lucky owners of the Sew Batik Challenge Pack that is usually debuted at the Vermont Quilt Festival. And I haven't started it yet. I have plenty of time now. We got an email from Diane and Bruce at Sew Batik saying that they love the challenge. They want to continue doing it. They haven't quite figured out the mechanics of what this is going to be. But stay tuned, and they're going to do something. And I look forward to, I was actually hoping to pick up more fabric from this when I went to MQX, so I'll be shopping online with Diane. But you have to kind of have a sense of humor about it because the honest to God, the theme of this challenge is it's a circus. So heaven knows what I will come up with. It's a very loose prompt. It's one piece of challenge fabric. I have some batik fabric that's so batik, but I need more. Here you go. So that's kind of what we'll be doing with that. So let me pull up the show notes again. Make sure I cover everything I was going to, because I've got a big surprise to drop for you very shortly. So Catherine, it will be worth your while. Okay. I've made a lot of masks in the last weekend. I wound up, I think, I took 24 of them to the post office and to a donation box at the hospital, and I have more coming. If somebody wants to help this endeavor and is asked to make a mask, I think that's wonderful. I will share fabric. I will share elastic. I've had it shared with me, so I'm happy to pay it forward. So there's a lot going on. Okay, apparently Sarah says I'm having a good hair day, and Sally says it's so weird, which I'm not quite sure what that means. But anyway, comments are kind of don't help Sally. It's not helpful. But so I've been doing a lot of sewing with masks. I haven't been getting a lot of sewing done on my UFO projects. Behind me on the design wall is something that I'm working for. It's a class sample, and it's my absolute favorite kind of a background. It's a sparkly, mixed, neutral type of thing that's all mixed up, and we're playing with So Kind of Wonderful, which makes me happy. But it's gray. And that's kind of, I need to play with color at this point. So I have got something else going on in the background, which is something that Chris Poore is doing as a free sew along, working with her scraps. I'll throw this in the sew notes as well. I think it's the spring quilt along. I got as far as coloring in my paper. So now I'm going to go figure out and get my tub of scraps out, and this is going to be my next mindless sewing type of a thing. This is already going to be called my Corona Color Quilt, because I have no other ideas. Cancellation of Vermont means my production schedule and my show quilt schedule has changed, and that means that the next big one that I'm going to start working on and bringing forward, and you'll start seeing it in photographs and such, will be my ovarian cancer quilt. Which will go into the auction in Houston a year from now. Quilts take a very long time, and something that's going to be this extraordinary, and I have a really fun idea, is going to take a while. So this is another project that I need to start. I think my time of working on UFOs is going away, and I'm going to start working on that. Good morning, Leanne. So, my big news is that last week I was talking about something that Catherine LeBlanc over at Dragonfly's Quilt Design Studio has been putting together, and it talks about the idea of an online quilt show, which I think is wonderful. I think she's a perfect personality to work on it, and kind of was like thinking about it, and I jumped in. I'm part of it. I'm very excited. My laundry list of things that I have to get done to get ready for this thing are a mile long. And this is going to be one of those weeks that I'm going to be pulling in some long days. I have samples to make. I have a website to finish, and so that I can launch with you. And you will be hearing a lot from me about the Designer Quilt Show, designersquiltshow.com, beginning next week. There are 28 designers who have partnered together. It's a collaborative effort. It's like a blog hop on steroids, because we're going to do different things. Next week's Facebook Live, Wednesday at 10, will be part of it. I will be welcoming in, hopefully, people from around the United States to help them find from me. And we're going to be talking about working with your Cricut as a way of enhancing your productivity and your creativity in your sewing room, but not doing it from the point of view of the fusible applique, but doing it from the actual cutting of the quilt. So that's going to be kind of answering the question that I often see: should I get an AccuQuilt? Should I get a Cricut Maker? You know, what's the difference? How do they work? And type of thing. So I'm going to walk you through kind of an in-depth example of some of the things that you can do that you might not realize you can do using the Cricut Maker. And you're going to find that I have found that it makes my life go a lot faster, and it has allowed me to actually bulk cut kits and quilts for customers. So that's what I'll be doing for that. So thank you to Catherine for working with me. I'm feeling like the little engine that could. It's a huge step, and it requires a major upgrade for my website that hasn't been done yet. I'm sure there's enough coffee to get it done because it's me doing that. So you'll hear more about that next week. I'm very excited about it. It's sort of something that I'm excited about the website. I'm excited about the possibilities. I'm working with some really fabulous other designers in this thing. There are 28 of us over a week period. There will be an opportunity to win prizes. We have sponsors. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And I get to meet up with some of the crazy ladies that I've known from Island Boutique Days. So this is really, really good. So thank you to Catherine, who's watching, for putting this on and organizing it. And I am looking forward to seeing what kind of trouble I can get into next week. Praying for a good hair day. So the title of this particular Facebook Live was going to be, or is, What's in a Name? Have you ever wondered why, when you email me, you email linda@thepatchworkpearl.com. My website is onequiltingcircle.com. And then I talk about cornerstones. And what the hell is that? And how does it all play in? So, here's the deal. I have 2 businesses that I run. And one of them is One Quilting Circle, which is the creative home of me. It's where you see the blogs. It's where you see the Facebook, the Instagram feeds all go down that track. And that's where you're going to see me talk about the creative things that I do. It's where you're going to hear about patterns and projects and techniques and different things that I can do that way. That's all the same way. The other website that I have is called The Patchwork Pearl. That was the first website that I have. It's still active, although that is going to need a lot of time and attention once I'm done with this. That is geared towards the marketing of the business side. The Patchwork Pearl was the original website that I started, and it is targeted to a very different audience. It's to, good morning, Sue. It's designed for small businesses of any genre. You could be a crafter, you could be an automotive mechanic running a business, you can be a bakery running a small business. That's where you're going to start to see some difference, different things. There'll be a different targeted message for that. There'll be a different newsletter coming out for that. And that newsletter is going to be called Foundations. And we will see that going forward. That will become more active now that the creative outlets for me at the moment are popping up unusually. If you had told me a week ago I'd be doing the Designer's Quilt Show, I would have said, there's no way I'm going to be ready for that. Well, I'm going to do it anyway. If it was good enough for Richard Branson, it's good enough for me. But in terms of my talking about business and how do you position yourself in this economy and what works, what messages resonate with it, I have companies that I have worked for years that I work and help and do their marketing programs. Sometimes I keystroke and do actually produce the newsletters. Sometimes I just give them some direction. We have a number of different packages on that. And I think that's going to be something that is going to be taking off later on this year. That's where the email address was always tagged to, and that's where the newsletters are, and that's good morning, Pat. Good morning, Carolyn. So there's no reason for me to stop that. And there's no reason for me to open up a second email box because I can't keep track of the one I have. So that's why when you email me or you say it, I'll say email linda@thepatchworkpearl.com. And it's that email box. It's coming to One Quilting Circle and all of that stuff. When I started the newsletter, the electronic one that goes out to you, I realized very quickly that I wanted to have a name for it. I wanted to brand it so that people knew what I was talking about and how I was working on it and that part of it. Cornerstones is part of a traditional quilt layout where it basically joins the different parts together, and it can be used in a sampler block or pulling a lot of different elements together. So Cornerstones that's where the name came from, and it has worked and served purpose. It has gotten very big. There has been an awful lot of stuff in it with calendars and other events and stuff like that, and I'm having to really scale it back and have it be a little bit more me focused at this point, because the calendar, there's not a lot there that hasn't been deferred at least through midsummer, and so that's what's going on. Once I get website, Designers Quilt Show, Cornerstones, patterns done, then almost at the same time you're going to see me launching Foundations, which is the targeted program for the small business community. So the I often talk to people that know my husband's retired, and it's like, and you're retired? And I'm like, yeah, no, not really. Not really. I have enough balls in the air and I keep things going. I have a lot of fun. Keeps me young, keeps me out of the bars and off the streets, and kind of sees how we go from that point of view. Beth from Maine, how are you, my dear? I'm loving the fact that your fridge is filled with lobsters. You win. Beth is joining us this morning. So that's kind of what's been going on here. I have patterns coming out that'll be out for next week as part of the designer show. You will see me pinging off and talking with the other people that are part of this program, because it's really a phenomenal opportunity to market for all of us. And in the very distant future, I'm looking at investigating and doing online platforms to do online classes for me. Looking at things that I can do that will translate well to an online format. Looking at, obviously, I have to get comfortable with the technology. I've worked with several. Not a particular fan of Zoom, but I'm looking at other alternatives that would be low cost or no cost for my customers. And we'll see how that is. Thank you, Catherine. Yep. Once again, the website is designersquiltshow.com. I'm down at the bottom of it. My little logo is there, and she's been very helpful in terms of my getting my stuff together. And that's kind of where we're going to go at this point. I think this is going to be a shift in the industry, and I'm hoping that we will all find a way to reconnect with each other, to reconnect with our quilting fabrics, and see how that goes on that side. That's pretty much what I had scheduled for this week. I try to keep them down to about a half hour's worth of time, unless I have an actual tutorial that I'm going to do for you. I do have one tip, and one place I'm going to actually link to and send you. For those of you who are blasting through all of your UFOs in your time, which is great. For those of us that have always bought and hoarded a lot of fabric, who knew we were preparing for this? But as you're going through your UFOs and you're finishing them, if you're looking for another way to be able to finish your quilts and bind them, get them off your to-do list, out of your queue, out of your room, move them along, I have something called the flange binding technique. When I was working with Catherine and doing demos for the Humble Beginnings Adventures, which is where I've met a lot of you, this is a machine-made, machine-applied, all sewed on, one-stop shopping technique for making a quilt binding. It goes on very quickly. You sew it to the back, you fold it over to the front, you stitch it down. You have a larger ditch than you would if you were going to have the piped binding. This gives you a little bit of a wider edge, but on the other hand, it's a lot easier and less fiddly, technical term there, to do than that. And I use this on an awful lot of my quilts. There's actually a tutorial over on my YouTube website, which is One Quilting Circle. And it is the flange binding technique, and I will link that today when I put this over on One Quilting Circle. I'll put the link there so that you can go and see how that is. You and me both, Catherine. This thing it works so well, and it covers a multitude of sins. It goes on fast. So this is something that I have already done the video on it. Thank you to Sew Orchid Design up in Norway for doing the videography on that one. So this one is all done. I'm hoping to do more videos as we go through the process in the series and I get my YouTube channel all lined up under playlists and channels and such. But this one's already there. And so if you're looking for something that will allow you to, like I said, machine applied, machine done, you're all set, go for it. Until next week, when I see many of you back from the designersquiltshow.com, this is Linda Pearl, and you have a good day and be kind. Thanks.